This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 53. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak, brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com, your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm John Duffy.
I'm Kevin Moyer.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And welcome to the show. First things first, this episode, it's contest announcement time. So we were sitting around trying to figure out who would be the winner for the August contests. We were, looking at our 2 contest entries, and we decided, damn it, we need more. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend the August contest, but we're also going to announce the start of the September contest so that those of you who just are in no way, shape, or form are going to have anything to do with the August contest can set your sights on September. So what we're going to do for September, which we think is it will get more user participation, is this contest is sponsored by Tomorrow's Publishing. They have generously donated a subscription to either one of their bi-monthly magazines, Alter Ego or Back Issue. So the winner gets to take their pick of either Alter Ego or Back Issue for 1 year. That'll be 6 issues. Get delivered right to your door. So we think that's a pretty sweet prize.
It's very cool.
So the contest is, and this is a fun contest. We want you to find signs, whether it be a road sign, a billboard, a name of a restaurant, whatever, that somehow is comic book related. Maybe you live on Kirby Lane or something like that. So take a picture of that sign. But here's the catch. We have to know that you took that picture with this contest in mind. So there are 2 requirements. One is you have to be holding a sign, or there has to be a sign in the picture that says Comic Geek Speak, so that we know you didn't take this picture on your last vacation to California, whatever. You actually took it after you heard this announcement. And the second thing, to make it fun, you have to have a prop, some sort of prop. So let's say you live on Odin Boulevard. Put on a Viking hat and hold up a hammer or something, and it just could be silly fun. And then the winner will be the picture that we all just think is the funniest, the best, whatever. The most unusual, if you can somehow find, Stan Lee's, House of Hot Dogs or something, that would be kind of funny. So maybe that'll be the winner all by itself. But you have to meet the criteria. You have to be holding a sign, and you have to have some sort of prop. And so just send us the pictures in the email. We'll put all entries on the forum so that everyone can see them. And when the end of September rolls around, we'll pick a winner. And then you'll get your free subscription to Alter Ego or Back Issue magazine, courtesy of Tomorrow's Publishing.
Cool.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
As part of the staff, we're exempt from the contest, isn't it?
That's correct.
Because that is a cool prize.
Yeah, I know. I was when I got I sent the email up to them asking if they'd like to do it, and they said yes. I'm like, damn it, how can I win?
And just to give a brief explanation of those 2 magazines, Alter Ego deals with mostly Golden Age, Silver Age comics, DC, Marvel, Fawcett, which is the old Captain Marvel Shazam line. It's by Roy Thomas, and Back Issue is mostly 70s, 80s, and all the goodies that came out in those 2 decades.
Yeah, and speaking of Tomorrow's, they also just sent us, just yesterday I got a box in the mail with 3 real nice books from them. Secrets in the Shadows, The Art and Life of Gene Colan, the Justice League Companion, and the Modern Masters series, Volume 5, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. There are really nice books, and we'll be talking about them later as each of us has more time to read through them and look through them. But they are really, really nice books. And if you Well, Peter and I were talking about this on the phone the other day, how, as I've gotten older, I've gotten so much more into the history of comics as opposed to just reading the comics that are on the shelf. Old comics are more exciting to me now. And appreciating artists who I dismissed as a kid because it wasn't flashy. But now I realize, I was looking through the Gene Colan book. I couldn't even tell you if I ever read a comic illustrated by Gene Colan. I mean, I might have, but I don't recall. And I never would have paid attention to this kind of art. And then I look at it and go, my God, this guy can draw. I mean, he's not Todd McFarlane, or he's not, Jim Lee or something like that. But he's a classic illustrator with, everybody's in proportion and the anatomy is probably correct. It looks so nice. All this kind of stuff. Same with Garcia Lopez. It's just gorgeous work.
One of the things that I've found with Colan, going back and reading, the Daredevils, when I started getting into the character and picking up the back issues and reading it, I was like that too. I was like, what's it about this artist? It was kind of like my same thing with Kirby, but he kind of loses something in the ink work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think his pencils are so strong that when you see his pencil work and stuff, it looks amazing. And just depending who the inker is, sells his art or destroys his art. Sid Shores was really good inker on Colan and Daredevil, and he really made his art pop out, whereas some other inkers just couldn't handle his style, and they got really kind of flat and non-dynamic in a way.
Yeah, because when I flipped through that book, it's the only one of the three that I don't have. And I flipped through it and I went, wow, look at that pencil work. And the first thing that came to my mind was when it comes to the inking of it, they kind of wash over it. And so the parts where it's shaded and you get variations in pencil lines just becomes a big solid black glob. And it's like, whoa, you just lost all that definition.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Wow.
there are a lot of pencil drawings in here, so you can really get to appreciate it.
Because, a lot of his work, even on Cap or Iron Man or anything like that, he tried to do a lot of dynamics to his drawing, to his panels, to make the art and the story that much more powerful. But in doing so, he was kind of vague in some things, like trying to add motion to it and such. And the inker didn't pick up on that, or just didn't bother to play along with it. And there's a lot of stuff that looks like it's almost unfinished and just blotted out or blended out, and it does. It takes away from it. It really makes it look flat.
So these are three books that we're going to, like Brian said, later on we'll really get into some, as we've passed it around a couple days. And between this and tomorrow's publishing, and we also, which I guess we can announce, we also got the Futurist movie. We got all these things on our plate that we have to, as a group, sit down and watch and read or whatever. So we have some cool things coming up in the next 8 to 10 episodes.
Yeah, I'm interested to look at that Gene Colan book because, like you, I have the other two, but that one I would have never thought to pick that up like that.
Who were the other two? Because I don't have them. The other two books?
The other two
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant there was two other...
No, the
that-
other two things that they sent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Are you listening?
I'm blonde. Relax.
The other thing, before we get into the meat of our episode, is we are going to be at Baltimore Comic-Con, September 17th and September 18th. It's a Saturday and Sunday. Tickets are $15 for one day, $25 for 2 days.
Yep.
Down at the Baltimore Convention Center. And we pretty much, all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's about 7 of us going, and we are going to make an appearance. So, not an appearance like, they invited us.
They're gonna dim the lights and cue the music.
Now presenting Comic Geek Speak.
No,
Would that
it's
be
just gonna
frickin'
us.
sweet?
Yeah. So I know we have a lot of Baltimore listeners. I know that some of them post on the forum. So if you guys are planning on going, I'm sure we'll put it on the thread eventually, and maybe we can do a hookup, just to meet at the show, and that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
And,
We're going to be like the Comic Geek Squad, like the Geek Squad from Best Buy.
Yeah.
We're not
We'll all
that
have
bad.
our T-shirts on.
So if you were hemming and hawing and you weren't sure if you were going to go to Baltimore Comic-Con, well, now you got a reason to go.
Yeah.
And the guest list is amazing.
I know. It's such
Everybody's going there.
it's such a kind of a small show, but in a way it's not a small show. Every
Right.
year they always have a huge guest list of really highly respected and renowned comic industry people.
I have another friend, Brian, and he goes there every single year, and he's talking about how much of a presence DC is supposed to have at this. It's just supposed to be immense.
It reminds me of the magnitude and stuff of the Pittsburgh Comic Con. That's something that They always have a great guest list and such. It's one of kind of the not so renowned shows in a way, not like Wizard or one of the other top companies, San Diego and such. But they are good shows.
Cool.
Can I give a thank you out
Sure.
to Bruce R. for sending me some CDs with some very interesting recordings on that I was listening to this morning and having a really good time and a lot of fun. I'm going to pass it around to the guys. I think they'll get a real big kick out of them. So thank you very much. Anything else like that, man, let me know about it. That's fantastic. I'm always looking for things like that. So thank you.
And a reminder for our September Book of the Month Club selection is Fables Volume 1 trade paperback. And if you don't have it and you would like to get it, you can pick it up at 40% off at instocktrades.com. So it'll only cost you a measly $6. So pick it up. And while you're there, buy a bunch of other shit too. It's hard not to. Every time I go to that website, I'm like, oh, look at that.
I haven't looked at it in a
that.
couple days. I'm afraid
it's
to.
dangerous, yeah, because I just... the list is endless, it seems. So I think for this episode, we're just going to do a bunch of listener emails because we have so many to get to. And the first one I'm going to read, though, I'm going to jump right to the front of the list instead of the back because we got one and it's extremely timely, and I want to talk about it now. It's from Matthew Park. He says, okay, first off, great show. I'm really enjoying the interplay between you guys, and I'm slowly working my way back through the archives. Second, I'm currently a chemistry grad student, and I swear to God, every time you guys use the word catalytic during your 50th episode, I wanted to murderalize you. Here's the deal. A catalyst is a substance that basically speeds up a chemical reaction. That's all it does. If catalytic control means the control of the rate of catalysis, then you couldn't really do much with it for things that don't use catalyst. You couldn't stop a gun from firing, for instance. You could play havoc with the body in many interesting and messy ways, though. A better description of the power you were talking about would be activation energy control, basically controlling whether or not a chemical reaction can happen. In this case, she could stop a gun from firing by raising the activation energy really high, or she could cause it to explode by lowering it. I know it seems nitpicky, but this is my field of expertise, and it really bugs me when people get it wrong. So, well, thank you, Matt, because, we were talking, and if it's going to be the basis of our character's power, we should know what the hell the power is. So.
Plus, just by him saying that to me has already given me some new ideas already. Just by putting it in those parameters that it's a different topic, a different way to describe it, and by doing that has, for myself, opened up doors as far as things that were limiting to what we were talking about using, like the catalytic control. Now having the high reactive energy thing, that gives me a whole lot of new ideas.
Yeah. Let me find this thing here. And we also, one other shout out in reference to episode 50 is if you're on the forum, you might have seen that one of our listeners from the UK, his name is Rob, he sent in a picture that he drew of our character, a concept sketch he did for us, which I thought was very, very cool. It's posted on the forum under your thoughts on our character, something like that. But he just sent an email, and he actually sent us another sketch, which I'll throw on the forum. But he also said that he's getting married on Saturday, so if we could wish him luck, that would be great. And of course,
Good luck.
yes,
Boy, that was heartfelt.
He wanted luck. Good luck.
I support you, Matt. I'm happily married. I don't know about anyone
I'm
else.
happily
in the room.
married.
All right.
The only thing is this episode is going to be aired on Monday, so...
Well, it's close enough. That's why I didn't want to wait until
All right,
3
we're
months
sending
from
him
now,
in.
because otherwise it would be completely outdated.
Look at it as you're setting the attention before the event happens. So even though people don't listen to it before then, you're putting it out there anyway.
Yeah. And because he's getting married now and he'll be off on honeymoons and such, he won't be having any more sketches for us for a while. So I got to kiss his ass a little bit so that when he gets back, he does some more drawings.
The one thing I'll say is try to remember everything that happens. It's almost impossible. It goes by so fast, and then like a week later, you're like, man, what the heck happened? It all just flew by, and then you sit down and watch the tape and figure out exactly what everybody said or what you did or how much fun you had, and it flies by. It's a fast-moving day.
For all the planning you put into it, and all the money you put into it, enjoy
gone.
the day. Yeah.
Yep. Try to enjoy it. Don't
That's-
let everyone push you around to go here to get a picture, go there to enjoy your day.
Exactly.
It's
make
hard
it
to do.
Make it what you want to have.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
That is good advice. Very good advice.
Okay, on to the old.
So congratulations.
Moving on to other email sent in on July 12th. This one's from Blake. He says, "Hey guys, just found your podcast on iTunes and I am loving it. I started with your Batman Begins show and have been following since. I really like your take on comics. It's not the nitpickiness you often see on most message boards and shows a true love of the genre. Just listened to your review of Fantastic Four and had to agree with you. While it wasn't the best, it was still an enjoyable movie. I'd rate it just slightly below the first X-Men. I think people often forget that the first X-Men movie had problems too, including a somewhat cheesy plot. Hopefully FF2 will show the improvement that X2 did. Anyway, you guys may have covered this in a previous podcast, but I was wondering what were some of your favorite runs in comics. Mine is, and I know this may sound strange, Fabian Nicieza run on New Warriors. I think it was some of the best plotted and written issues out there, with great subplots and characterization. I feel Nicieza is somewhat underrated today, overshadowed by people like Bendis and Miller, not to knock them. I recently picked up most of the original Thunderbolt series, which Nicieza wrote the majority of, and loved it. His new Thunderbolt stuff is great too. Anyway, just curious on what some of your favorite runs are. Best of luck, Blake." Well, I think most people in this room loved the Thunderbolts run that he did.
I love both. I enjoyed the new Warriors book and Thunderbolts.
I didn't read New Warriors that was like came out in late 80s, is that right? Or early 90s?
I think it was early 90s. That was one of the six
they had Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Yeah, and Ghost Rider and
Quasar.
No.
Did that start at the same time? Or
No. There was like 6 titles they started at the same time and was like a group launch kind of thing, and that was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I never really read much of it either. What I did read was all right. I do like what he's doing now on the newer run of Thunderbolts. I have picked that up and have enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, that's been very good so far.
And he actually one of his that he did that I really enjoyed was his run on Nomad. That series, I thought that series was really good. But that's my 2 cents.
I gotta say I'm really enjoying the new Thunderbolts. I was so disappointed when Marvel, basically canceled his run to do the new Thunderbolts, the totally like Fight Club, supervillains kind of Thunderbolts, and even though they hyped it so much, obviously that's not what people wanted. So I'm glad they're giving it a second chance, and I hope it's around for a while because I think it's one of their better books.
Cool. I mean, as far as our favorite runs other than his work, we've talked about that a lot, and we have a thread on the forum that lists things we think you should read, and basically they're our favorite runs, more or less. All right.
I'll have to look up that new Thunderbolts. I haven't read any of the stuff that you guys mentioned.
I have the trade of the new Thunderbolts, so I didn't read that yet, but the original Thunderbolts was excellent. So well done. Such a unique and unusual concept. And it was so well written. It was very, very enjoyable, very exciting read. And I thought New Warriors was good. I thought that was a good... He's right. It was good, solid stories and good characterizations. That's what made it interesting.
I think, too, it's one of those books that it's still pretty unpredictable. Like, because they're using these second, third string villains, you feel like, they probably could kill some of these characters at any moment. So it gives it that sort of fresh feeling like, anything can happen.
All right. This next one is from Jasper. Say, hey guys, my name's Jasper. I stumbled across your show last week in the new iTunes directory. I think episode 34 was the first one that I heard. I really enjoy listening. I'm not much of a comic geek as all of you, but I find your knowledge astonishing. I'm pretty much strictly a Batman and Frank Miller reader. but I have a feeling that I'll be branching out if I continue to listen. I'm already thinking of reading Superman for all seasons because one of you mentioned it. I especially enjoyed listening to the episode that concentrated on trade paperbacks because that's how I prefer to buy my books. I live near Detroit, so if you don't have any Detroit listeners, I might be your first. Actually, I think Chris from the Collected Comics Library, he's from Detroit, so I think he beat you to it. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate your show a lot and keep up the good work. A couple quick suggestions. Please make your show daily. And it would be great if you could dedicate an entire episode on the works of Frank Miller. I haven't read all of his stuff, and I'd like to hear your opinions on some of the obscure stories that he's working on, like Hard Boiled and 300. Well, I mean, if we had the time, we would love to do it every day, but unfortunately, we have to actually pay our bills, and, getting a couple free trades from Top Shelf and Tomorrow's doesn't quite pay the bills. So,
unless we just have to finish the basement at your house, Brian, and then we can all kind of have our own room and make it like a communal effect, and that way it's cheap for all
wait
of
a
us.
minute, Matt lives in that mansion.
That's true. That's true.
He's got like 50 rooms.
They can
there.
make like a condo thing where everybody
We never would have to pay for.
That's true.
We could do like a commune.
There you go.
We could plant a garden and grow our own fruits and vegetables.
Self-sufficient.
And the great thing is that thing is so damn big, we wouldn't even run into each other.
That's
right.
if we really
You
wanted
still have
to.
your own space, and
And we could have one common comic book room. That whole downstairs living room thing that he's not using could just be a giant comic room with all our shit in it. Like, gotta be heaven.
the seeds are
But
planted.
now, if you guys start disappearing, I'm gonna have to take head count every day because of the way that basement unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, we will have to have some kind of signal in case one of us disappears.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind doing a thing on Frank Miller. I think you could easily do a whole episode on his stuff.
No sweat.
Especially now that 300's now been picked up for a movie. Yeah, they're going to start filming that, I guess, soon.
Got you bring Alex. He'd
will
love
go
that.
crazy.
Lots of naked Greeks.
See, there you go. There goes back to my whole thing. Alex likes being naked.
Here's an email titled, "It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's just another gushing email. Hey, geeks, wow. That's all I can say. Wow. I love you guys. Finally a place in podcast land I can call home. What I love about your show? There is simply too much to list. Basically everything. The banter, the reviews, the discussion, the laughter, the dogs barking, everything. I started listening to you about 4 weeks ago, and this email was sent on July 19th. And I have finally finished backtracking and listening to every single episode. What will I do now? I'm out of episodes. How will I live with only one episode a week? Wait, one a week?
No,
Did we
maybe
ever
back
do
then.
one
Maybe
a
back
week?
then.
Back then we were doing 2.
Oh, yeah.
We had 2 back then.
He says, I love your Book of the Month. I am currently one half of the way through Crisis, and I will re-listen to Book of the Month number 1 upon completion. And your special movie episodes, top-notch. I even began using DCBS as my main supplier for my monthly pulls. Come on, September. I can't wait for my first shipment. And by the way, stop being so cheap. For only $8 per month, you can get your shipments once a week. I have no idea how you wait a full month between shipments. Because $8 is another trade
a
paperback
lot.
I can buy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take that and I'll wait. I
Eight
still have
bites. That's $24, man.
yeah, I have a stack of stuff, waiting for me to read. I'm in no hurry for my next shipment to arrive. It is sad that I find myself dancing in my cube whenever it's time to stump. Oh, is it sad that I find myself dancing in my cube whenever it's time to stump the Rios?
No,
No, Peter dances here, so.
It makes you want to dance. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I would love to get my hands on the track so I can turn it into the disco faggy remix that it so richly deserves to be. Peter, don't worry. Even if you were gay, we homo listeners would just embrace the show even more. Finally, might I suggest a spoiler-filled episode of your show each month? How about during the first week of each month having a special podcast episode that discussed the previous month's comics? I would love to hear discussions about current storylines, character development, oh my god moments, etc. It's the only thing I feel is missing in your current episodes, and it wouldn't ruin anything for those who have not read the issues yet, as everyone would know it was a spoiler-filled and they could just save it until they catch up. Okay, this letter is running on a bit too long. Keep up the good work, guys. You make the world of comics oh so much more entertaining. Who knew that was even possible? Royal Oak, Michigan loves the Philly Comic Geeks. Yours in geekdom, Brian Biddle. Well, thank you, Brian. That's probably the most glowing praise we've ever got in one single email. As far as your suggestion about the spoilers, we just recently had some discussion on the forum on this topic, and I think our objective is in the regular numbered episodes, we will never have spoilers, because that's like our goal, is to bring you at least 2 episodes a week where you can just sit back and relax and not have to worry that this is one you can't listen to because of spoilers. We will have special episodes from time to time. We do the book of the month. You know, we are planning some special episodes for Infinite Crisis, and probably following up with 52, where we'll do some special spoiler-filled episodes. But they will be outside of the normal realm of our regular episodes, because we personally don't like spoilers. And we're all, even in the same room, we couldn't do a month later, because probably Kevin and I haven't read it, because until it's 6 or 8 months later. If it's DC, hell, it could be almost a year until we get our trade.
Yeah.
You know, so we're, even amongst ourselves, we have whispered conversations in other rooms for people to discuss. So we're not going to do spoilers, but we will have special episodes from time to time where, because, like, for example, Infinite Crisis is too big to not talk about. So we will talk about, after we've read those issues, we will have special episodes. But
There's always one of us throwing hands over ears going, la, 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 no, shh, shh.
Maybe what we'll do is, as we get into a few of those Infinite Crisis episodes, we'll take a look at how to keep that going with other things. Because, this isn't, like Brian said, this isn't the first request that we've had. And, so maybe down the road, God forbid we add yet another kind of episode to our already multitude of episodes. But maybe we'll take a look at it and we'll say, has everybody read such and such? Well, you know what, we're going to actually talk about it. And it's going to be outside of the book of the month, and it's going to be, just its own little thing. Or maybe when we do stuff like the Frank Miller, if we do like creator episodes, maybe we can get a little more detailed. But even in those, we got to be careful, because there might be some people who have in this room who, we talked about. Some of us we didn't read books, some of the stuff that came out like even 10, 15 years ago, we're still waiting to read. So we'll think a little bit more about that. We hear you, but like Brian said, this is kind of the reason why we almost did our episode, why we started our podcast like this.
Yeah, to escape the spoiler-filled realm that is the internet.
And plus, I know there are other podcasts that do reviews, and they do them very well, and we kind of stay away from those kind of very detailed ones, except when we do a Book of the Month Club or something like that. So,
right. But stay tuned. We'll keep it interesting and fresh. We promise. We're down to 114 emails, guys. Woohoo! Okay.
We need to each take like 10 or 15 and record them at home.
Marching on. This one's from Tom Bolton. Hey, guys. I became aware of your podcast through iTunes. You are the first podcast I've listened to, and I am confident you are the best comic book podcast in the world. Good call on John Romita Jr. being the best comic book artist in comics. He is without a doubt the most well-rounded artist working today, and maybe ever. Everything he has done is exciting to look at, technically sound, and on top of it, he can draw two books a month. Amazing. I have a discussion topic for you. What creators do you think have owned a character the best? This doesn't mean creator-owned properties. Of course, Eric Larson owns Savage Dragon. But what creators, artist-writer or artist-writer team, do you think have really captured a Marvel or DC character in a run that defines them? Keep up the great work, guys. You are so entertaining. That's a really good question.
Yeah. I can think of a few right off the top of my head.
Go ahead.
Well, I think James Robinson and Tony Harris on Starman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Frank Miller on Daredevil.
Walt Simonson on Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Byrne on Fantastic Four.
That's where I love it, but can you really top Kirby and Lee on Fantastic Four?
It's hard. See, that's like a fine line kind of thing, because they established and created the characters and made the Fantastic Four what they were.
And so much history that they've put into it.
Right.
Like I said, I love John Byrne. I love that. To me, that's one of the quintessential runs of any book, and I always push people towards it. But when somebody says, "Do they own?" I have to go.
Well, I guess I wouldn't want to say own, but I thought did justice to the series in ways that nobody that I feel after Kirby and Lee had done.
Sure.
I think he really brought the characters to a new level.
Mm-hmm.
So he took on what was already established and
Well, then how
have
about
built on that. So
throw Byrne's name in a mix and say Byrne and Claremont on X-Men. More so than Claremont and what's his face? The
Dave Cochran.
oh, I can't handle his artwork.
Yeah, those were not very good.
No, they're average art issues, but with Byrne and Terry Austin doing
Because
the
all
art
those
on them.
classic X-Men stories
True.
happened during Days of Future Past and Dark Phoenix. and all
Yeah,
that.
but you wouldn't have gotten that Byrne run without Dave Cochran.
That's
Dave
right.
Cochran was the one who
Yeah,
designed
but we
all
like
those
to forget
characters.
about it.
And no, you
See,
can't,
I don't forget
you can't
about
forget
it.
about
No,
Dave
no,
Cochran
because-
when it comes to X-Men.
That's right. I
I
mean, because
can.
he did the giant size, and he also did like the first 7 issues.
more than
No, more than
And
7, like
basically
9 or 10.
created Nightcrawler.
Well, he
I mean,
did.
he did create Nightcrawler.
He did create
yeah.
Nightcrawler, and also
but that
did-
doesn't just because you create the character doesn't mean that you made the defining run of that
No.
character.
Sorry, Jamie.
You're gonna kiss
not,
again.
that's not what I'm saying. My point is just saying you can't dismiss Dave Cochran.
Right, but the question is, who in your head has the defining run of the X-Men?
Because if you're gonna go with that argument, then you got to give Herb Trimpe his due for Wolverine, and I can't because those are horrible.
But I see what you're saying as far as like being
John,
prominent on
like
an
you were gonna
X-Men
say
title. Everybody thinks Claremont and Byrne, but you can't. I don't dismiss that. I consider that part of the run, like
Right.
from '94 up. Even though it's Claremont Byrne, I consider that part of
See,
that.
when it comes to X-Men, I don't think of artists. I think Chris Claremont.
Right.
I
Because
mean,
with
really, although the Byrne Claremont run is good, Claremont's the one that kept it going, and
Right.
regardless of whether you like it or not, I mean, the X-Men would not have been where it was without Claremont.
I guess what you can add to that is the fact that even though Cochran did help create some of the characters, whereas later on when Byrne was on the book, he actually co-plotted the book with Claremont, so he added more to the story-wise and character-wise than Cochran did.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten Wolverine without Byrne.
Exactly.
Not
Or-
that he
and-
created it, but he was the one that latched onto that character because
Right.
he was Canadian, and Claremont didn't like Wolverine.
You wouldn't have Alpha Flight and that whole storyline connected back with with the Hudsons and Wolverine and all that, and Department H and all that. So that was all a collaborative effort. So
Who I'm going to go a different way. Who, if when you say Superman, who do you think of?
Kurt Swan.
I don't know.
I never read any Superman, so I have to bow out of that one.
Okay.
Probably originally Dan Jurgens, because that's where I started picking it up when he was doing it. But now, after reading a lot of other things, it probably is Kurt Swan.
What about Captain America?
Mark Waid,
For me, I go back to Byrne. I really enjoyed
the
his
Roger
run.
Stern, John Byrne run
Yep.
was good. It's a shame that was cut short because of editor problems. But
And I'll be honest with you right now, Ed Brubaker, should say, and
Yeah.
the various artists that are doing it right now.
What about Batman?
I go Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil for me. And I haven't read a lot of those issues, but what I've read, I've enjoyed and just what they brought to the character back then.
that's when I got on when I read Batman's. That's the first creative teams that I
Yeah.
was accustomed to. That and Jim Aparo.
I was just gonna say Jim Aparo was the one for me, at least when I first started.
So both of those.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which is a unique thing because of the way their art styles were. Where Power is very clean but dynamic, where Neil had that detail oriented and kind of like a new style. I don't want to say new age style because that's not the right thing. But
Well, you can see where Aparo, even though they were kind of side by side, I see a lot of Neil Adams in Jim Aparo. I don't know if that's what he was influenced by, but you kind of can see some of the fluidity and
I mean, the
running
characters
same.
certainly, like if you look at the actual character themselves, they could
Very,
say they
very
look similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Neil Adams used a lot more detail, whereas Jim Aparo was more of a clean style. But yeah, I could see similarities in the way they drew the characters.
What about Spider-Man?
Wow, I mean that's. See, for me, it's
Todd McFarlane.
That's well, that would be the first
some
thing in my
people-
head.
yeah,
for some
because
people,
that's
that's
where I
it.
started reading it.
That's right. See, for me, I see it's Stan Lee, but I mean, I'm just as easily influenced by Gil Kane and John Romita as I am Steve Ditko and John Romita Jr. You know, when he was on the book with Roger Stern and John Romita Jr., that run that they did on Amazing was really good. But
Plus back then, picking up those McFarlane issues for me, that was the first time you saw something like that. So for me, that was exciting because it was so artistic for me to see something that action posed packed.
I think a lot of this has to do with how old you are and where you came into comics. It really does, because I agree with Kevin. It's one of those, when you look at it, you have to say, like, definitely Stan Lee, but then you have to say Ditko because he was there in the beginning and, again, put so much into the characters. But I also particularly like John Romita Sr. I like the artwork he put into it, and that's a lot of stuff when I was first starting to collect. It was just towards the end of his runs, and he and like Ross Andrew, a lot of that stuff was right there. So it really influenced. Those are the kind of things that influence me, and makes me think. You know, when somebody asks me the question that was asked, that's where I go.
yeah, it's tough because, like, I love Gil Kane. He's one of my favorite comic artists of all time. So him and John Romita Sr. together were amazing. But of course, John Romita Sr. had that iconic Spider-Man. When you growing up in the '70s reading Spider-Man comics, that's who you thought of, John Romita Sr. And anytime you saw advertising or Spider-Man being used in any sort of way, shape, or form outside of a comic, it's usually 99% of the time a John Romita Sr. drawing. Mm-hmm. So he established Spider-Man as that iconic character. But then the thing that I look at is Steve Ditko did to Spider-Man what Kirby did to the Fantastic Four, did a lot of the design work. All the Rogues gallery that he created with Stan Lee was so unusual and unique, which, you know, is a common thing in comics where they say the Rogues gallery has to be as interesting as the character themselves are otherwise. And you look at some of the villains that Romita Sr. was involved in creating with Stan Lee, and they don't jump out at you like the Ditko Rogues gallery does. So that's why they each have had such significant impact.
I'll give you a character that no matter who has done it afterwards, it's not the same. Art Adams on Long Shot. I don't know if it was creator-owned. I don't think it was, but that one to me is like...
You're talking about that miniseries? Was that 4?
Yeah, it was like 6-issue miniseries, and anytime afterwards, if Art Adams didn't draw it, I was like, well, it doesn't look right. Like, and then, to go to his thing, which one owns a character? I think Art Adams owned Long Shot when it came to the 80s.
How about Justice League? Because I know where I would go with that, but...
that's what my next question was, JLA and JSA.
Yeah. For me, it'd be Giffen, DeMatteis, and McGuire, because that's, as much as I like Justice League just as a team, growing up, that resembles the cartoons closest, where it's a little bit silly, it's a little bit campy, not always the best or adventuresome storyline, but it's fun, good read. And after starting with G.I. Joe and then going to Amazing Spider-Man, that is the first DC book I picked up regularly. As much as I love Batman, I didn't get there first. I saw Justice League first and thought, oh, more bang for my buck, all the characters, that's what I picked up. So that's where I would go with it, even though I do love a lot of the stuff that came before. For me, that solidified a lot of personal feeling towards the Justice League, was reading that first 60 issues.
JSA, if you're just going by the characters themselves, I think it would have to be James Robinson, just for the Golden Age miniseries, and also what he did in the pages of Starman. I think he really knew how to handle those characters well, where I think DC had kind of fumbled with them for years before that. Where nobody really knew how to handle them quite right, and then he came on and said, look, these characters are still cool. You can do all this, neat backstory with them now. Why not do something with them? And I think Jeff Johns and David Goyer really picked up on that and ran with it.
For me, I don't know if it's my personal preference, but one that I think is probably more widely accepted is the whole satellite era JLA. I think, Jerry Conway and whatever artist. Huh?
Ordway?
No, Jerry Conway, the writer.
Dick Dillon.
And Dick Dillon, yeah, and then followed by... Well, then he died, and then followed by Perez, and then followed by...
Quarter in the jar.
Followed by Chuck Patton. Why should I put a quarter? Nobody else puts a quarter in the jar.
That's another reason I stayed away from that.
But, as far as, like, universally what era would be more accepted, it'd probably be that era. And then for JSA, I also think, well, I guess you can't really say JSA. Maybe I'll say Earth 2. The Earth 2 characters, Roy Thomas and Jerry Ordway, just breathed so much life into both All-Star Squadron and Infinity Inc. I think they really owned in the 80s. They owned that whole concept and idea.
They would be my pick for the JSA just because of the All-Star Squadron.
What about Avengers, Jamie?
Wow.
Who was doing it when Dr. Drew was in it?
Dr. Drew or Dr. Druid?
Dr. Druid.
Is that like Dr. Phil? Wow. It's
You won't admit it, but it's The Heroes Reborn, isn't it?
yes, it's the Rob Liefeld that he owned them. Wow, I was thinking that because I knew someone was going to ask me that. Owned? Yeah, but I don't think he owned them because it wasn't like, to me that's not a quintessential run. It's a good run. I enjoyed it, but there are other ones before that. When I think of the Avengers, I got to think, wow. Like Roger Stern writing it, just that entire Masters of Evil storyline was one of the best. Even to go all the way back, or some of the early stuff, just when they were first starting out, and of course Perez and Burns, short runs that they put on them.
Roy Thomas?
Really yeah, with Roy Thomas writing it. But there's really nobody. I really don't think there's anybody that I could say that was out there that really put a stamp on him. I think everybody brought something different when they picked them up. So there's really no, like we were saying, Kurt Swan, or when I think of Thor, I immediately think of Walt Simonson. There's nobody out there that I can really put that kind of stamp on. They're my favorites, but.
And see, that's how I am too, because there's so many good things that happened in Avengers throughout all the years, but I can't think of anybody any one creator, writer, or penciler that really makes it,
Carlos Pacheco on Avengers Forever.
For Iron Man, David, how do you pronounce his last name?
Michelini
and Bob Layton.
Bob Layton, absolutely.
Yeah, Bob Layton artwork definitely. That's when I think of Iron Man.
Yeah. And Michelini's stories were out of this world. He took the levels of Tony Stark and Iron Man to a whole different ballgame.
Yep.
How about the Flash?
Mark Waid.
Mark Waid. Who would you say for art-wise?
Carmen Infantino on the old Flash.
There you go.
Is Mark Waid's Flash better than Jeff Johns' Flash?
It's very close.
It's kind of hard to compare because Jeff Johns' run is smaller than what Mark Waid's is, so I think Mark Waid had more of an impact on
How
for
long
me.
did Mark Waid?
No, really?
He's about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
So it's catching up to it. It's close to it.
When he's done, I think he's just over 5 years.
Mark Waid went from like 70s,
I thought it
80s
was like
to 150, I think. And then Waid is, Johns is probably a little smaller, but
It's not much.
No, I'm not saying it's like drastic. Like he was on it for 2 years and Waid was on it for 7. But
it's hard because they both brought such distinctive things to the character. Like Jeff Johns has flushed out so much more old time rogues galleries and so much story involving everybody.
Also, Jeff Johns went out with a bang, and Mark Waid went out with a whimper.
Yeah,
true. But I look at it like when I asked that question and I answered for myself, it's Mark Waid that comes to my mind because not only did he make Flash interesting, he brought in Max Mercury and Jay Garrett and brought those characters and made them as equally interesting.
And it created Impulse, so that's
sweet. And also Jesse Quick and
Introducing the Speed Force aspect into the character.
I mean, he definitely made it rejuvenated again. Certainly, right.
So to me, he's brought more life into the character than Jeff Johns has. Not putting down Jeff Johns. It's just that for my opinion, I say that Mark Waid's added more to Flash than
it's
anybody
funny
else.
That a character that has been around since the late 50s or whatever can have his seminal run be in the 1998 or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's happened on a lot of characters if you really think about it. Because there's a lot of characters that have been around for decades and not really had such a dramatic showing in the industry, and then all of a sudden somebody picks them up and blam, throws it in everybody's face.
Well, until like Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams on Green Lantern and Claremont and Byrne on X-Men, you didn't get anything that even resembled a run. You know, it was just people doing their jobs, and stories weren't really connected. So I think that's probably why.
I mean, if you look at
other than the Kirby and Lee Fantastic Four,
right? But I look at it as, like you say, with Claremont and Byrne and Cockrum on X-Men, is the same situation like Frank Miller had with Roger McKenzie on Daredevil. Is that both of those books were on their last leg and ready to be canceled. X-Men went to a reprint book for months before Claremont came onto the title with Cockrum and revitalized the whole freaking thing. And then Daredevil was the same way. Daredevil went to a bi-monthly printing run and was not selling well at all. And, you know, until McKenzie came on, and then Frank Miller added with the artwork, and then all of a sudden the book took off. So,
Brian was whispering Titans to me, but that's just so obvious. You know, Perez and Wolfman. I mean, you can't even get any better than that. But
Jesus, they're Rikes, man.
For those that didn't see it, Jamie threw up 2 fingers right in front of Peter's face.
The next time somebody says they're not putting a quarter in that jar,
I put my quarters in.
I put my quarters in.
No, I didn't see you put a quarter in when you said Mark Miller. When you said Mark Millar, he did.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see you.
I didn't. I owe 2 quarters, so I'm guilty. But you got to put them in because Perez is coming to collect. He saw.
Yeah. The other one that I just thought of, Legion of Superheroes, Paul Levitzon, Keith Giffen.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want to read those issues. I'm so far behind on so much, but I really do want to read those issues. They sound so interesting after listening to you guys talk about them all these years.
About like Mike Barr on Batman and the Outsiders.
Mike Barr and Jim
Aparo.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a great run?
All right, let's move on. Otherwise, we'll spend the entire rest of the episode talking about this.
All right, now I'm up to $1. I put an IOU of 50 cents. Now I'm up for another 50 cents. I can put the dollar in.
50.
50 cent.
50 cent.
50 cent mean change.
We need a bigger box.
All right, this email's from David Price. He says, "Afternoon all. I'm still playing catch-up, and I'm still thoroughly impressed with the show. Regarding your recent show on Indies, I'm a little surprised that there was no mention of Valiant or Defiant, or Jim Shooter's other attempt, Broadway. Other than Quantum and Woody..."
Because they suck.
That's the proper editorial.
Shazam!
They sucked.
Except for Valiant.
No, I meant the Defiant and the Broadway.
the
Where'd they go?
Broadway.
They were here and then they left.
They really made like no
they
impact
didn't suck.
whatsoever.
I'm sorry, they didn't suck because I didn't read them, but I certainly knew better.
Valiant was
Yeah.
cool, but Defiant and
Valiant was
Broadway just were
definitely
like
cool.
Plasm?
they were here and gone. I mean, they didn't really make an impact.
Not Plasm. Warriors of Plasm.
I have the Plasm Christmas special.
Sweet. Quantum and Woody's a whole different discussion, though. I love Quantum and Woody. That was great.
I saw some War Dancer in there in your comic room, too.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm sorry, David. Let Brian go in.
So for those that read Valiant in any of their stages, early, Unity, Deathmate, or later, what was your favorite book, storyline, character? When do you think they jumped the shark? Archer and Armstrong is by far the best Valiant storyline. It's Barry Windsor Smith, and nothing topped that.
And it clearly jumped the shark as soon as he left.
Well, yeah, I mean, right, when he was done, the book was done. as far
I
as
liked
I'm
Archer and
concerned.
Armstrong, and I loved Dr. Solar. That's what got me on
Yeah,
the whole
Dr.
Valiant
Solar.
run. Because I liked that, which I was fortunate enough that when that was coming out as the new title in Valiant, I went to a flea market and I found a bunch of the old Gold Key issues, that were at a flea market and were in great shape, and picked those up and read those as well. So that really got me into it. But I love Dr. Mirage, too. I thought that was a cool...
Yeah, that was
I
good.
also liked Solar. I mean, Magnus.
Magnus Robot Fighter. Yeah.
Ra.
And,
I liked Ra.
And I liked Eternal Warrior in the beginning, too. But then, like you said, when Barry Windsor Smith left, and because the Eternal Warrior was Armstrong's brother or something, right? And
Something like that.
yeah,
It's been so long.
and so they were
It was one of the
closely
three or four brothers.
they were closely tied. But then when Barry Windsor Smith influence left the company, then I think that character went to hell.
So for me, I'd say the ones that stand out the most for me are Solar and Dr. Mirage.
Yeah, I liked. I'll agree with the Archer and Armstrong, Rye, but definitely not Rye in the Future Force. That was crap. And to me, what jumped the shark when Leighton pushed out Shooter.
Yeah.
I liked Exo Manowar as a concept. I always wanted more from the book itself, but I liked the concept of it.
And
I wish it
Turok
would've
was
done
kind of
more.
fun in the early issues. I mean,
Yeah.
it was an interesting idea.
I
Okay.
actually enjoyed some of the when I guess Acclaim bought Valiant and they tried to resurrect a bunch of the characters and restart them. I think some of those actually were pretty decent at first.
I was long gone by then. So
but it was one of those they couldn't sustain the interest. So
Punks.
yeah,
Come
that,
on,
that
Punks.
was awesome.
4 issues.
That should still be going.
It should. That was brilliant. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
That's how brilliant it
That
is.
was all crap. Well, didn't you just say that was all crap?
I said Defiant and Broadway were crap. This was part of Acclaim and Valiant. It was Keith
the other
Giffen,
good one
man.
was Harbinger. I really liked that for a while.
About the first 12.
Yeah. All right, he goes on to say, for me it's a toss-up between Archer and Armstrong and Harbinger. I did like Unity for the most part, but enjoyed the Solar Origin more than I enjoyed the Solar Origin story from the first 10 issues more. My favorite character was Solar, although I enjoyed Armstrong and Sting from Harbinger. And I think it was the beginning of the end when they got a little crazy with their characters. Bloodshot was the Punisher. Ninjak didn't do anything for me. Secret Weapons was interesting, but not enough to sustain my interest. Same with Dr. Mirage, which I thought was a cool concept, but it was too little too late. I bailed and kind of got out of comics for a while, so I never picked up any of the Acclaim books. Rectified late last year with a winning bid on eBay for the complete Quantum and Woody run. Can't wait to dig in, and therefore can't comment. As for Defiant, I did enjoy Plasm and the Good Guys, but again, my money was needed somewhere else. Other indie
As
books.
Peter cringes.
Yeah, Peter's going to convulsions.
Like Pogs and...
Oh, God, Pogs. Oy.
Quantum and Woody is so worth it. The
Oh my
best
God,
buddy
yeah.
book out there ever.
It is so well done. Great artwork by Mark Bright. So funny. So good. And it has every element of comics in it, and to the high extreme, I feel.
Other indie books I enjoyed were early Dark Horse comics, Mayhem, first appearance of the Mask, Comico's Justice Machine, and of course Mage. First comics, John Sable, Nexus, Grimjack, and E-Man. Since anthropomorphic characters were discussed, other than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I once came across adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters and have a few issues of Boris the Bear.
Oh, Boris was awesome.
I have a couple Boris issues.
Loved Boris.
Yeah, I got a whole nice run of those.
I have the entire run.
I don't know if I have the entire. How many did that
Still do.
go?
Oh, Christ. I know when, there was 2 series.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 20 on one. And
I might
maybe
have them all then,
10,
too.
15 on another.
Because they even have, they had the color special and
Yep.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Wacky the Squirrel.
Yeah. Those are great.
You know, there's a I don't think it was a regular book, but something just hit me that I always enjoyed. Gregory, that little kid in the insane asylum.
Yeah, the Mark Hempel, I think it was.
I don't even
Yeah,
remember that.
you're right.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to read.
He
Actually,
says,
Mark Hempel, I enjoyed his Tug and Buster, too. I thought that was a good independent.
hey,
You got to watch how you say that.
Yeah, I like to tug and buster. I like to tug my buster.
Hey now.
I like to tug Buster.
he says, speaking of funny parody books, what about Lethargic Lad? I think I tried comics from just about every publisher, from Eclipse, Mr. Munster, and Zot, Omaha the Cat Dancer from Kitchen Sink Press. Epic brought me Dreadstar, Gru, Moonshadow, Epic Illustrator, and later Saxon Violence. Needless to say, I was never satisfied with just the big 2. I would even gobble up the magazines like Amazing Heroes and David A. Kraft's Comic Interview just to see what I might be missing. I was always interested in the stories, which makes me wonder how caught up in the hobby I must have been to follow early Image the way I did. And today, I find I'm more concerned with the writer than the artist or art team. I wrap up for now. I'll probably go on about how sad some of the pencilers are today, where they do a few issues before needing a fill-in. Remember Jim Apato's run on Batman and the Outsiders? Or George on the New Teen Titans? See, he just skips the last name and just says George. Maybe that's what you should start doing. You'll save yourself
Or
some
call him
money.
GP.
George P.
Burns
That's
FF
cheating.
run, Kurt Swan, John Romita Jr. on Amazing Spider-Man, Ron Frenz or Mark Bagley on Amazing, Steve Dillon on Preacher. I'd like to add Eduardo Riso, but 100 Bullets is bi-monthly, is it not? I pick up my books when I can, so I'm not sure if it's schedule, just that it's been pulled for me. Have a great night, folks. A faithful listener, David. Well, it's funny how he mentioned all those runs that we just got done talking about. And
Yeah, one book I have been remiss whenever we talk about independence that I do enjoy and have enjoyed is Lethargic Lad. Greg Hyland, or I think that's how you pronounce it. If I'm wrong, then I owe another quarter. But he produced it for a while, and then it got to be too expensive, and I'm pretty sure he's now doing it as like a web comic. I know on the DCBS board they have a spot for comics, and I know Lethargic Lad is listed on that. So I think if you go in there and click on that, you go to that his site. But it's well worth looking at because it's a very funny parody book, and always made me laugh out loud.
all right, next email sent on July 20th, so we've moved up a day now. This one's from George DeLeon. He says, "Hey guys, just wanted to drop you a line and let you know this show is awesome. I am very new to podcasting and don't have many shows I have subscribed to. Your show tops my list, and like another listener mentioned, it's like a bunch of buddies talking on Friday night about comics. What else is there? I did have an idea that I would run by you, not sure if you are already doing this. I used to love picking up Wizard and doing the art contests that were in them. I never sent anything, even though friends told me I should. The guidelines were great and tested my art abilities. Ever think you guys could think something up for your artistic listeners? It doesn't even need to be a major prize or prize at all. The idea or concept you guys could come up with would be great. Would love to see our other listeners' talents from all over as well. Well, keep up the great work, and for now, make mine Comic Geek speak." Well, talking to the microphone, Peter.
We're kind of doing something, not actually doing that, but with the idea of our character and people sending in sketches and ideas.
Yeah, so far we've gotten 2 sketches from the same person, but if you're an artist, we'd love
Not
to
that we
see,
want to make it a contest, because this is just something we're trying to pal out.
But if you feel so motivated, we'd love to see your take on our character.
That would be an interesting thing not to do. If you want to do it, you don't have to do it as a contest, but to do something like that is put out, have people just send artwork in or something, and, something they drew, and I don't know, something that everybody can review on the board or something and take a look at. It's kind of a neat thing to do. I used to do a lot of art contests years and years ago. It was kind of fun. I won a few of them, and it's neat to, meet some of the people at shows like that were judges and things like that. So it's kind of fun you looking at it from that standpoint.
That might be interesting to do. I have a prize that I want to give away, but I've been remiss in trying to figure out something to use it for in a contest. So maybe I'll figure something out where people can draw something.
It is appropriate, I guess, since we're all about comics.
My
people draw comic style artwork.
And my prize is a toy, so I was going to relate it to that, though. Now that just went in my head. Interesting.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Next one is from J.D. Alvarez in Redmond, Washington. Hey guys, I hope you got my first email. If not, let me give a brief summary. I stopped collecting comics in the mid-90s. I've always loved comic movies and sci-fi. I was a big Buffy and Angel fan, and I know a lot about their universe. I really like being with characters and watching them grow. I started listening to your show the day iTunes started podcast directories. I've tried a lot of podcasts, but you guys are the shit. I'm almost done listening to all your podcasts, and it really helps in my choice to get back in. Now I have one question for you now. How do you guys do it? Set a budget for comics when I just spent $50 at in-stock trades without even blinking and had to check out before doing more damage? I'm lucky now that I have a little bit of funny money, but when I was on the site for about an hour and was lucky, I showed restraint. If you want to know about what I bought, was on your word. Runaways Digest 1 and 2, Astonishing X-Men, and Invincible Volume 1 hardcover. Also, I don't feel that bad now, having watched the entire series of Buffy and Angel at least 3 times each. So thanks for your insight as I get back into the game. I plan to make all geeks proud. Yes, budgets.
I'd like to have a budget. It just isn't feasible.
It's called Don't Buy Something That You're Not Enjoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, still... It's still easy to spend way more money than you want.
Well, true, but that helps to weed, man. You gotta look at your collection and go, are you just reading it because you're being faithful to the character, or are you really enjoying it?
That's one thing, that an influence of having a monthly subscription service has really done for me in that aspect. After doing it for 3 years or so now, that when I only get one shipment and sit down and read books and only have so much time to read books, I pull out the ones I want to read, and I found out that there was a couple titles that I was getting that would end up just getting piled and piled up, and that's like, you know what, I'm not getting it anymore. If I'm not reading it, I'm not getting it. And then it also helped me, transition into just buying trades then to eliminate the whole process.
Yeah, I had read one time, while I was working at the comic store, there's a publication called Comic Retailer, which was basically a publication for the comic retailer. And a gentleman said at his store, his philosophy, which he tried to impart on his subscribers, was if you're not sure, give it up for a month, maybe 2 months. Just stop buying it. After 2 months, if you still want to know what was happening in it and still had the Jones, quote unquote, for the book, then you wanted it. If you, after 2 months, you dropped it and you didn't think about it, then you shouldn't have been buying it to begin with. I've kind of adopted that philosophy, and I've found that there are books that I'll drop that I don't miss, but then there are books, believe it or not, for a little while I dropped Starman because it was towards the storyline and it just wasn't going anywhere. And I thought, no, I'll put my money elsewhere. But then after 2 months, I looked at the shelf and I was like, no, I want to know what's going on. I want to go back. So that's, to me, my philosophy. Drop it for a month or two. If after that time period you don't like it, or you don't miss it, you really weren't enjoying it while you were reading it.
Was that during Stars My Destiny? Is that it?
Destination.
No, it was right around the time that they did the crossover with the Captain Marvel.
Okay.
I can't remember what storyline it was in, but it was just seemed to be going...
Stars and something, I think it was called.
Infernal Devices? Okay. According to Peter.
Resident Starman expert.
And since we're sharing the same microphone, we don't want to kiss each other while we're saying this. So yeah, that's just what I...
All right, next email from Brian Hamill. He says, hey guys, love the show. You have got me back into loving comics again. One simple question. Since you are a comics podcast, why not refer to each show with an issue number instead of an episode number? Seems a perfect fit, no? Well, we can't do that now because we've already started and I'm very anal retentive and I refuse to change.
Unless we go volume 2, then issue number 1.
No
Not
way.
restarting my numbers.
And he says, looking forward to Comic Geek Speak, issue 39. And this is episode 53. So that gives you an idea of how far behind we are. Oh, cracky. Oh, we're trying. We're down to 107. 107 to go.
So I think people would rather have a mix like this than just reader emails just to get them through.
Well, plus I always look at it, it's never a bad thing to have more stuff to go through than not enough stuff to go through. So.
Well, and when you wrote a letter to a comic book, you didn't. It wasn't put in for like months later, right?
Yeah.
So we're just keeping the trend alive.
Yeah, because years ago it used to be the 4-issue thing. Uh-oh.
It's that time, Peter. Okay, this one's coming in from Matthew Guy. 3 questions, all DC Comics related.
Did we have one from him before? Matthew Guy?
Oh,
I thought we
yeah.
did. Did he get? Did I
yeah,
get-
these are I must have kept it starred because we need to send him a prize.
This is
like,
like
he
from
says-
episode 52 or 51.
In
or
the
something like that.
Kents, what were the names of Silas?
Yeah, we did that
Kent's
one before.
Yeah, we did that. Okay, hang on.
Out of here!
Where's that window? Where's the professionalism? Shoot,
Should have
there it
said
went.
something, Pete. You could have won that one.
Yeah.
All right, this one from Barry McGlashan. Hi, guys. I've long been an admirer of the show from Aberdeen, Scotland, UK, and was wondering if there was even the
think we have Scotland.
slightest chance of a special podcast partly dedicated to Watchmen. I'm sure there will be a book of the month at some point about Watchmen. I think we skipped over it because it was too obvious of a selection, and we'll come upon it at one point. But anyway, it did rewrite the superhero genre and so on. We also have the possibility of the film on the horizon. I suppose none of this is news, but I'd love to hear your take on it. I'm slowly working my way through your podcast, which I have downloaded, and I'm getting there. It's a great listen, even those shows which aren't really dealing with subjects that are my thing. I'm not a traditional superhero fan, I guess. My tastes were evolved through British comics such as 2000 AD, and so on, but I'm really enjoying the show. Keep up the good work. And just in case you are planning a Watchmen episode, here are my Stump the Rios questions. So they're all Watchmen questions, Peter, which means they're probably really easy for him. What does Rorschach first tell his psychiatrist he sees when in fact he sees the head of a dead dog when shown the ink picture?
A pretty butterfly.
That's correct. Word for word what he has here. What does Dr. Manhattan draw on his own forehead when told he needs to adopt a symbol?
A hydrogen atom.
Very good. What is the password that Night Owl uses to access Adrian Veidt's computer after breaking into his office with Rorschach?
Ramses 2?
Yes.
A sweep.
Perfect score.
Clean sweep.
It's been a long time since that.
Thanks for playing, Barry.
That makes you feel good because I've been clunking the past couple episodes. It doesn't matter. I already put 50 cents in the jar already, so even if I did.
All right, we have a Geek of the Day, too. This one from Brian Cooksey. That name sounds familiar. Did he say...
Oh, wait, I wanted to ask. Scotland, we can put that on the map now, right?
Well, I've already
we did?
filled in the UK
Okay.
in total. I didn't separate England from
You
Scotland.
better watch yourself.
Start a war.
Yeah. You don't keep that separate, you're going to hear some emails.
All right, here we go. From Brian Cooksey, Geek of the Day. Episode 2 was Frecking Swear. The subject of the future of comics is one I think about a lot. My mom is the one who got me into superhero comics. She was a high school teacher, and the big fundraiser at the time, the late 70s, was a magazine sale. There were some comics on the list, and she asked me if I wanted some. I was 8 and didn't know much about superheroes, so I picked out the Fantastic Four and Marvel Team-Up. I maintained those subscriptions for years. This led to me buying lots and lots of other comics since then, and now I have my own comics blogs, Noetic Concordance. It's http://noeticon.blogspot.com. That's noeticon.blogspot.com. I have a 2-year-old son, and he's showing interest in comics already. He sees me reading them and wants to know what's up, so I show him the pictures and tell him what's going on in each panel. This, of course, depends on the comic. I'm not ready to explain parts of Vertigo titles to him yet. I like the discussion of Marvel Age stuff because I'm looking for some things to get for him in a year or two. He can already pick out his favorite characters. His geek parents are so proud. Keep up the great work. Brian. He says, P.S. What cons will you be attending in the near future? There will be some great comic guests at Dragon Con this year, and Heroes Con 2006 looks like it's going to be out of this world. Well... We're not Dragon Con this year. Is that already over now? Or did that
I think that's coming up, I think. That's Atlanta, isn't it?
That's Atlanta one. It's like the
Isn't that in
the
in
gaming one,
Is that
right?
September? Late
Yeah,
September?
it's a gaming one.
I thought it just happened.
Maybe it did.
Yeah, I thought that was end of August.
I know it's usually at the end of summer, beginning of fall. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly when it is, though.
You know, both the ones he mentioned are southern.
Yeah.
Southern.
I mean,
ones.
Heroes Con 2006. That's possible because
That's very possible.
North Carolina, right?
Yeah, that's not, that's like an 8-hour drive.
And that had the big push because of
Right.
the
Yeah.
Wizard
Right.
controversy.
Right.
So,
And they always have a great list of, and they bring a lot of guys in that you don't see at other,
Yeah.
especially from overseas.
depending on how this, where we are, and
If
by
this
the
show
time
is still
2006,
kicking next
Yeah.
year,
we may be doing a huge
we may do
tour.
a whole world tour of comic conventions.
We'll have to buy the Comic Geek RV and do a road show. And be on the road for a whole year.
To the Geek Mobile.
We need.
I'm sure he's probably heard episode 51 by now when we interviewed Mike Norton. So, as far as Marvel Age, Gravity, might be great for his. Because I was flipping through that first issue, and I know Jamie said he picked up the issues. And they're very, not that they're childish or anything like that, but they are safe, kid-friendly.
No, and I think that you got Sentinel, and you have, the Marvel Age redos of Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, so it's kind of like you get modern-day retellings of original stories.
Yeah, and any of the Teen Titans Go, the
Justice
League Unlimited,
The
any of
Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman, yeah.
Any of the Johnny DC ones.
This next email is pretty funny. It's from I think it's Ticoman from the Los Comic Geekos. He says, so you wanted more female listeners, huh? And he gives us this link, and it's a device. It's a vibrator that you connect to your iPod, and then it vibrates to the sound.
This is not the Lena Taylor Look at His Butt podcast. We don't talk about sex toys on this show.
It's pretty hilarious. He says, so make sure that from now on you make a lot of loud, repetitive sounds in your podcast. So if you want one of those things, you can go out and buy one.
You gonna post a link on them forum? Or?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I had to talk about it. Just. Oh, okay.
That's a good unique email.
That was cool.
From Powerpuff Girl fan fiction to iPod sex toy.
Yeah. Here's one. What are you going to say, Jamie?
I was just going to say, they are so wacky down there in Central America. They're just crazy.
God love them.
This one's from Rick Gordon. He says, you really should post pictures of you guys doing the podcast. I've got an iPod photo, so it would be cool to do a geek slideshow while listening. Love the show, from Rick Gordon. Well, I'm in the process of launching our website, and we will have a gallery, so we will be putting some pictures and stuff on there. So, I guess we should probably wrap this episode up.
Look at us plowing through the emails, though. I mean, I think this is the most emails we've gotten through in an episode ever.
I think so.
Keep going, a couple more.
Okay, this one's from Crystal Hayes. Dear Comic Geeks, my name is Crystal Hayes, and I listen to your podcast all the time. My favorite one is the Fantastic Four movie edition. I really enjoy it, but I had a few questions for you. Does anyone know the name of that song that was playing during the whole Reed planning the Chamber family montage? The montage in which Johnny kept trying to get Ben to hit himself with a handful of shaving cream. I couldn't find it on the soundtrack. Does anybody know?
No, I don't
Not
remember.
a fan. I would know. I'd have to check into that.
Why didn't you like the previews?
Previews to FF?
Yeah.
It just didn't look like they had it all together yet.
See, I didn't mind the previews. I didn't really have a problem with it. So for me,
I just thought the previews kind of took away some of my hopes for the movies because I felt they were just a little lackluster.
I guess it kind of got me excited because some of the shots in it were. I mean, I love the things that I think about when I think of the preview is Johnny with Sue on top of the building and him jumping off and doing the flame on.
Awesome.
That's the only
And
part
I
I really, really liked.
I love the image of the Thing where they did like a worm's eye shot of him like getting up on the Brooklyn Bridge. It's like he's standing up and rising into the frame. And you see the Brooklyn Bridge abutment in the background, and that kind of was like those are the two things that stand out, and that's what kind of got me excited, like to see those characters in those environments and to see how well they did the Human Torch.
Well, now I'm confused with my preview. I remember saying that I wasn't impressed with the Batman Begins preview, but I don't remember if I liked. Now you're saying all that stuff. I'm thinking, yeah, I did like that.
And then he said finally they, in like the second trailer or something, they finally let Ben say it's clobbering time at the end and him blasting through a building.
Yeah, I don't remember now if I liked it or not, or why I didn't like it, or why I did.
I'm not sure from the question if we weren't talking about the previews in front of the movie. That's
well, yeah, that could be.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
damn. We got to start reading these quicker.
Yeah. Number 3. By the way, the name of the man who played Dr. Doom is Julian McMahon, and the guy who played Human Torch is Chris Evans. I guess in our episode we were having some discussion about that. So. And could you please read this on the air? Well, we just did, so that solves that problem. Thanks, guys, from Crystal. So,
no proposal, Jamie?
No, she didn't really throw me that much.
With a name like
Jamie.
She didn't. Sorry, I mean,
she's not a librarian.
She's a librarian and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I might.
But listen to the name, Crystal Hayes.
Yeah, well, I
kind of reminds me of like
Maddie Hayes.
It's like Jimi Hendrix. No ring for you.
No ring for you. Sorry.
You wait, she's gonna send you some pictures or something, man.
Please do. I'm more than willing to look at. You know,
totally hot.
if you know, if
too late.
hey, that's fine as long as I get the pictures. I mean, Christ, the number of women have turned me down. As long as she sends pictures and she's good looking, I can make up my own stuff. Okay, I'm pretty good about that.
Tell me again why girls are afraid to go into comic stores.
People like me. Oh yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. That was a total joke. Okay.
Oh shit!
All right, I'm
Send
gonna,
a picture anyway. Send a picture.
for our last email today, I'm going to read this one because the subject line, hello from Baltimore. So we were just talking about that. It says, hey guys, took me about a month, but I managed to listen to every episode in order since I first discovered your show. I've been a casual comic book reader early on, but started really getting into comics in the early 90s, especially the X-Men books. Then stopped reading after the whole Heroes Reborn period that Marvel did. It's just gotten too overwhelming to keep up with buying all the books to follow the storyline, and I was not making all that much money at the time. I came across your show and decided to subscribe to see what's going on with comics these days. And as you can see, I got hooked to your show. As a result, I'm interested in comics again, and I can afford it now. The only problem I'm running into now is deciding where to start. Anyways, thanks for the interesting show, and I'll keep listening. P.S. If you guys do come down to Baltimore for the convention, I'd be happy to show you guys around. Also, I do not have a podcast, but I do have a streaming live web station at www.retroforwardradio.com from Mike. So yeah, we'll have to say hello to you, Mike, at the con. Please, when you hear this, email us again or something, and maybe you've been to the con before, you know the layout or whatever. You can tell us, you know, maybe a place that would be convenient for meeting or whatever. So
Can we do that like on the forum and put like a temporary sticky for now until
Absolutely.
the convention and put it on there about anybody who's going to the show can post
Yeah.
their information and we can all kind of get a general consensus where to meet and when?
Absolutely. Good idea. Anybody else have anything before we wrap this baby up?
It's September. Go vote. And you want to say something about the Google ads.
Oh yes, okay, we have a plan. As of recording this show, we are up to like $70 on Google. Okay, we got to get to $100 before we can get a paycheck so we can buy some new hardware. All right. So our plan is this episode comes out on Monday. If you're listening, and we know there's like almost 1,000 of you who are listening. Okay. Go to our blog, comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com. There are 2 Google ads on the side. Click on the first one, go to the page, come back, click on the second one. Don't do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times because I think Google's onto that and it counts against us. But just everybody go do that. Just click those 2 ads. It'll take you all of about a minute total. Okay? So if you're sitting at work listening to this podcast or whatever, just go do that. And then do it every day this week. Just one time during the day, click both ads during this. So for 5 times, 5 days, you're going to click 2 ads, total of 10 clicks, times 1,000 listeners. Well, 10,000 clicks. We want to see how much money that shoots us up. If we can clear our $100 so we can get our new mixer so we can have better sound quality for you because we're dying to get it. We're like $30 to go. We want to see how much money those 10,000 clicks would make us, theoretically.
Yeah. Like
So.
$15. Then we can get rid of our spider, our octopus that we
Yeah.
have coming in.
Oh my God, we have splitters like crazy and
We can get
wires
headphones
everywhere.
and microphones for everybody on the show.
Yes, that's what we need to do. So that's our plan. Let's see if we can't rally together and do that. Just this 1 week as a test. And if it works, then maybe we'll revisit it every once in a while. And,
By my math, that's $20,000 we should get, right?
yeah. We'll probably get about $6. But hey, it's $6 closer to 100, All right. The end of the show. If you would like to send us an email, send it to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Visit our blog at comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com. For information about some of the other comics podcasts, go to comicspodcast.com. Big thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting the files. Please vote for us at Podcast Alley and subscribe to us using iTunes. And if you would like to buy a t-shirt, you can do so at our blog. They are $10, and that includes shipping. Once again, we are brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. See you next time.